You have been the New Orleans District Attorney for over a year now, which is an elected position. How would you grade your performance at your job over this past year?
You know, if we look at every single rubric or measuring post that was laid out during this campaign, not by me, but by the people of this city, rebuilding trust, having a fair and equitable system, being smart on crime. When I say being smart on crime, that addresses this idea of being tough on crime. Not arresting everybody for everything, simple possession of marijuana, simple possession of cocaine, crimes of poverty, but really getting focused about people who are hurting people in this community, being focused on building those big cases, reckoning with the past, building trust in a system that the majority of the people of the city no longer believed in, no longer wanted to participate in. The last DA was putting witnesses in jail to make them testify. So if I measure whether or not we have ran to those toughest issues, I think we've ran and we will continue to run to those, and I think we're delivering. And we're also doing it at probably one of the toughest times this city has had in the modern era.
When I do stories on crime, I use phrases like the rise in crime or crime surge. If you had to put a phrase to what crime is in New Orleans at this moment, what would that be?
I think you're right with the term surge because you're seeing random, structured, gang-related crimes happening at a clip that is outpacing all of government, all of city leaders, and that is happening across this country. So it is a surge. It's an American surge. It's certainly affecting those of us living in this city directly. We are also a smaller city than these other areas. So I think with a strategic plan, we can surge back and we can suppress this. But we've got to have a collective, citywide, front end and back end plan.
You know, if crime is the, headline, I think the first subtopic is bails and bonds.
Sure.
Explain to people exactly how that process works.
You've got the state, us, and you've got the defense, and then you've got a judge. We all have our roles to play. The state receives a case from the police department. We go to court and we present every bit of information we have about that defendant, what their past record is, whether or not they're on probation, on parole, whether or not they did something years ago or last year. Give that information to the judges and we say this, we believe this person is dangerous and needs to be held or needs a very high bond. You also have the defense arguing against those points. And then at the end of that hearing, the judge makes a decision. And only the judge has the power to make that decision. That's not the law in Orleans Parish or just the law in the state. That's how it works across the American criminal legal system. So when people talk about the DA's role or job in holding people in jail, that is the only mechanism that prosecutors have throughout this country.
There's been a lot made about people going in jail, getting out on bond, then committing crimes, having these huge crimes, big, very dangerous crimes, and then having reduced bail and then back out on the street. What control does your office have in that whole piece?
What we do, if someone was arrested in the past, we make the judge aware of that. We make the commissioners and magistrates aware of that. And they've got to take all that into consideration. And I think they need to take in consideration the surge that's happening now. The food insecurity, the housing insecurity, the financial unrest caused by COVID-19 has made people desperate throughout this country and throughout this city. And so I think judges need to take all of that into consideration when they're deciding what a bond needs to be. We're going to keep pressing for detention. And I also think you heard Jeff Asher, the city council public safety analyst on Monday. He made it very, very clear, 2 points. 82% of the juveniles involved in violent crime in this city are being detained. Those judges are doing their job. My ADAs are doing their job at a clip of 82%. And I think that's exceptional work, and I think that's important. The other point he made was, if we look at the empirical data, the numbers, how many calls for service, how many times the public is saying, I was a victim of a carjacking, how many times our police department is making an arrest. And that number was very, very low when you looked at the FBI numbers, right? 29 carjacking arrests out of over 250 calls for service. Right now, this idea of we issued a warrant or some other things can make those numbers seem higher. But when you look at that, we're only making an impact. We're even close to more than 70% of carjackers on the street untouched, unarrested. Now, that's not the police department's fault. There are obstacles, there are hurdles, there are manpower issue and woman power issues affecting that. And we have to work to get them the supports they need to arrest more violent offenders. So when I bring that stat up, that's not to say, hey, you guys aren't getting it done. I need and want the NOPD to be successful. We are tied at the hip in this work.
How can we, the community organizations, help the efforts of the DA's office to be successful?
Do you know who this is?
That's Aranita. I know exactly who that is. She's one of our great partners and stakeholders. She has Aaron's Nesting Place, really leaning in on domestic violence work, and that we need them. They are critical links to making sure people have the services they need, whether it's Aaron's Nesting Place or the Family Justice Center, Son of a Saint, Silverback Society, Daughters Beyond Incarceration. This is how we make sure people have a safety net so they don't find themselves committing criminal acts. And so, I mean, we need these partners.
I got a question about the new jury pooling for the 10-2 rule that was in effect years ago. I'm wondering how far would it retro back? Would it go back past the current date, or will it only apply to new arrestees that was arrested after this took effect?
It's a great question. And what our office is doing is, and as I said before, we're reckoning with the sins of the past. And I think it's important to build trust with this community. Folks who know, have loved ones who are part of this system. I think it's important that we go back and we look at all of these cases, and we have. That's how we found Betty Broughton's case. That's how we found Jermaine Hudson's case. So in looking at some of those instances, we've actually found innocent people. In some situations, we found folks that we believe were guilty of the crime, and we're retrying that case. But we're making sure that they have a constitutional trial that has a unanimous jury verdict like the rest of the country.
Do you really think that we can stop the crime or slow down crime while poverty levels and rates are still so high?
That's an excellent question, and it really speaks to what we've seen in terms of how people responded to COVID infections and how people are responding to the stressors of COVID. Poverty. We are a poor city. We have been a poor city for a very long time. The cost of a hamburger has gone up, the cost of a hotel room has gone up, but the people who make the food and the people who make the beds have not seen increases in their standard of living and what they get paid. As long as you have poverty, you're gonna have crime. Yes, I do believe that the criminal legal system, I believe that the district attorney's office, working in coordination with the police department, when resourced the right way, can surge back at the violent crime we're seeing now.
Get out, this is some shocking video of a shooting in broad daylight on a busy New Orleans street. It happened just before 4 yesterday on Elysian Fields near Gentilly Boulevard.
As you watch this video, this happened the same day you were speaking with the council on stopping this. And then this happens right outside of a law office. People are afraid to walk outside. They're afraid to go get groceries. They're afraid to bring their children to school. There are a lot of instances of systematic justice and things that we are looking forward to do in the long term and in the long run.
Right.
But people are afraid today.
That's right.
What capacity does this office have to give people hope that they can walk outside their door in this city and be safe returning home?
I can tell you right now, as a father, as a citizen, it is scary right now. And they've got a right to be scared, and they've got a right to be outraged. There is a clear and present danger, and we need to act. I have pled with the city council for over 4 hours this past Monday to add resources to very clear strategies that I believe can work. This is very, very predictable. And we ask for these resources. We ask for the DNA testing to get faster guilty pleas. These are actionable items that can make us safer in the month of February if we invest in the month of January.
We've heard from you, we've heard from the chief, we heard a little bit from the mayor, we're going to hear more from her soon. What it sounds like is unless all three of those agencies, and we'll throw the courts in there as well, unless all of the law enforcement agencies in this city work together, we're going to continue on the path that we are right now.
They have to work together. They have to work constitutionally, but we also need new investments. Right now, we're spending the same amount on public safety that we spent before COVID. That's a bad plan. That's a horrible plan. After a hurricane comes through and devastates a community, it's not business as usual. You have to strategically triage the issue that's happening. And we, just like floodwater comes in, this surge is just like floodwater. And we need to be reacting to it in real time, and we have not yet. That is the alarm bell that I was trying to ring at the city council, probably while we were there close to 4 hours. We need to have a strategic plan moving forward. And it should not be just the mayor, the council, and courts. It has to be, the school board has to be a part of this. Nonprofits have to be a part of this. We need a full citywide surge back at dealing with what's going on right now. Root causes and accountability measures.
Are you hopeful?
I'm absolutely very hopeful. I'm hopeful because the city of New Orleans, unlike some other places, we get hit every year, every other year with something. Whether it is the pumps and turbines not working during a heavy rain, whether it's a hurricane coming in, whether it's a power outage. We've been through this before. We've been through tough times. We know how to bounce back. I am hopeful that we take these federal dollars that are already here. This is why I was talking to Cedric Richmond last night. These federal dollars have been deployed to urban cities throughout this country to deal with the surge we knew was coming. And so we've got to unleash that money right now, not spread it out over the next 4 years. We've got to surge back to protect this community with a plan, with real strategies like the ones I've laid out. And if somebody's got better ideas, I stand ready to work with those ideas as well and put them in place. So I am hopeful because the resources are here. The will is here, but we've got to act. We don't have the luxury of time.